Now, Davina McCall has opened up about how annoying she was during recovery from an operation to remove a benign brain tumour last year, saying that although her partner Michael was mega helpful, it must have been exhausting looking after someone so vulnerable and needy. Which I think is a really honest reflection from Davina, being in the position of the person who needed the care, because it's well, you know better than anyone, Gloria, it's such a difficult time for a couple.
It is, because very sadly I lost my husband last year, and for a year prior to that, because he'd had prostate cancer and it just, he'd beaten it very well, but then a few other complications set in. And, you know, he was the nicest man to look after in that sense. But I think that anybody in pain sometimes will answer something rather brusquely, or you would misunderstand it. And anybody out there who's caring for somebody at the minute, I just want to say hello. It is, you want to do everything that you can for the person you love, but it is exhausting because you're worried all the time about how is this illness going, and, you know, and so on and so forth, and the obvious questions. And it really is, I don't know, I find it in a way very hard to explain just how hard it can become, even though you just love the person so much, because you're not quite sure sometimes what to do for the best. And I think people in pain, whatever illness that is, I think that sometimes it just gets misunderstood. And I remember, I don't think I said anything, but I remember Stephen saying something very poignant. One day he said, you know, I always wanted to be an asset and never a liability. And I remember saying, oh my God, you're never a liability, you know. But I think people, when they're in that position, they get almost embarrassed sometimes to ask for a cup of tea or ask for their computer or whatever it happens to be. And you do your best, but it is exhausting. And so I feel actually just generally for people who are caring at the minute, because it takes your life over, really. And even though you might be expecting somebody to pass, but when it does come, it's just such a shock and such pain again. And, you know, the pain goes the other side.
Yeah.
Frankie, obviously you're in a very different situation, but, you know, you've spoken quite honestly in the past at times that you have felt that you just wanted to kind of retreat a little bit. Does that have an impact on, you know, the rest of the family? And...
Yeah, I think obviously it's a very different situation, but I think for anyone who suffers with their mental health, you know, for me, having depression and anxiety, I often feel that you become a bit of a weight on the family. I think you don't need to be cared for in the same way. But I feel if I'm going through a dip and my depression's particularly bad, I feel like I'm bringing like a bad aura and a bad feeling into the house. And I do often think, you know, of Wayne and the kids and think, well, you know, they would have been better off with someone who didn't have those issues, you know, someone who could naturally just be happy all the time and never have those dips. And I feel sorry for them sometimes that they do have to deal with that with me. And you do feel like a bit of a burden sometimes, but obviously it's very different to being physically looked after, but I think it's still something that people feel.
It's very, I mean, what I would say to you, Frankie, living with somebody with depression and bipolar, is that, you know, rather like when Gloria was talking about seeing someone that you love in pain, I never understood it until I lived with somebody that really does have mental pain. The pain is excruciating. It's just we don't understand it in the same way we understand physical pain. So when Mark, for instance, is really depressed, we all want everyone to be happy all the time, but that's not life. You know, he's still this incredible person, as are you, and that's a part of him. And Wayne will have things that are difficult for you and everything. And of course, when you're in a dark place, it can feel like that. But I promise you, when you have people that love you, they are just wanting that pain not to be there. They don't want that pain to be there. So, you know, you are a 360-degree woman. You're funny, you're kind, you're a great mum, you're a hard worker, you're all these things. And you're also someone that is unlucky enough to have to deal with the pain of a mental health condition. And that is not your fault. And it's the same, when I see it, it's the same as somebody with a broken leg. So we you know, don't
And that, I mean, that is what you sign up for, I suppose, you know, long-term relationships and sickness and health. I mean, I have to say, I worry that I won't be a very good carer if it comes to it. No, I genuinely do, because I've seen it with my mum and dad who were in a similar situation.
You were fantastic with, as I saw that. You were incredible with your mum and dad.
Yeah,
But you were always a perfectionist. You wanted to do more, but you were amazing.
Yeah, but there's that blood thing, isn't it? You know, with your mum and dad, it's the different dynamic, isn't it? My mum and dad were brilliant parents, and of course I was going to do everything that I wanted. And Ian is a wonderful partner, but you just know that, I mean, I'm at this age, and who knows how things go from here. But you've got to be realistic about life and what it might bring.
I don't think you can imagine.
Do I have it in me to do it?
You will, because you're a good-hearted person.
Somewhere, Kay, the strength comes, you know, whether it comes from up there, I don't know. But you do get the strength at the time. And I remember talking to somebody who had a motor neurone disease, and which is really terrible disease. And she said at the beginning of her course, she said, do you think that maybe I used my illness to get out of things or to get lazy, or do I use it as an excuse?
Do you ever feel that?
They feel, because you said that sometimes you feel a burden. And you see, in a way, I don't mean that's wrong, and that's how you feel. But you're never a burden to your loved ones. But it's funny, people get different feelings when they're in the middle of sickness and illness. They begin to think, am I using that as a bit of an excuse sometimes for not doing things or for doing some things, you know? So it's...
But also, commonly everyone wants to do their best, don't they? Sorry, Kay, like even the person who's sick, you've mentioned 2 people now that kind of feel bad for being that way and having people, and also you're worried about not being a good enough carer. So I think as humans, we always want to bring something to the table, don't we?
Exactly.
So it must be really difficult.
And
it's
like also doing your best, but not to aspire to some sense of perfection.
Exactly.
Because that doesn't really exist.
So sometimes it's really irritating if Mark is down. Like sometimes it will be irritating for Wayne and the boys if you're down. But that is part of life. Nobody is in a relationship being the perfect person, but you know, to be lucky enough not to suffer with a mental health struggle, my God, I feel that all the time now, and I truly know what it means. But if somebody had said to me before I met Mark, before I got married, oh, would you be able to deal with somebody with a mental health? Because oh no, I wouldn't be any good if somebody was depressed. I'm happy. I like to be happy all the time. And you would be the same. You love Ian very much. And if he needed you, you would be there. I know you would. And nobody does it perfectly. Nobody does it perfectly. There's no such thing.
But when
we try our best.
They're really annoying.
Ironically, I think he'll be better than me. So let's hope it goes that way. If you need support for anything we've just spoken about, you can find information or organisations that can help on our website, itv.com/helplines.